Welcome everybody. Academy will indeed be an introduction session, so we will discuss all the features, but we will not go into too much detail because we have separate academies dedicated to this functionality. I will share with you the agenda of today. First of all, we'll introduce you to the Nfield Manager, the interface used for the Nfield Online platform. Then we talk about how to create a new survey, set this up, testing it, configuring the quota for this survey. Then we talk about the sample, preparing it and then uploading it. Then we sometimes like to invite our respondents, so we also pay some attention to emailing. Then, once the fieldwork has started, we like to monitor the fieldwork progress. And you need the data, so we also talk a little bit about downloading the data. And as last, the feature is to report. And we have a reporting functionality built in the system. And we're going to talk a little bit about this as well. So first of all, we will talk about the Nfield Manager. Well, for this, I'm not going to use a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm going to show you live in our Nfield environment. I'm using the European environment. Next to this, we also have environments in APAC, Americas, and China. But that's because Azure is global, but still the internet is not unlimited fast, so you better off when your connection is closer to you. I will sign in our portal with a regular account. For some companies, it's also possible to sign in with an Office account. This has to be set up in advance, and some companies joining us today might already have set this up, but others can think of this in the future. After signing in, I will end on the surveys page, which is an overview of all the surveys you have already in your domain. In my case, it is already pretty full. The list is full with all kind of surveys. So usually you want to limit your view a little bit. I made this already possible by including my name in the survey names, but of course that's not always what you want in a production environment. But then still, if you create a survey, you can select all the surveys you created by clicking on My Surveys. That's an easy one, but you might not be the person who always creates the surveys. In that case, you can star your surveys that you want to see, and then you can select to see the favorites only. And we have some more status filters built in. For instance, you can choose between online and KP surveys. Then you can filter on the status, the stopped, started, under construction. Those you can do by clicking on the buttons. Bubbles, they call it nowadays. And you can also do it by clicking on one of these icons. If you have a mixed platform environments, like I have it here for both online and KP surveys, then you can also select the channel, and that's something you would have to select as well when you create a new survey. Another option is, if you know the name, you can search for it. Of course, it's nicer if you just make sure that if you're finished with your survey, that you really archive everything and then remove it. So the list does not become unendingly long. So let's see if I create a survey. And the survey name for online surveys is not visible on the outside normally, so you can give it any name you like, but it should of course make sense to you and your colleagues. Usually there are project numbers, and maybe even the customer's name can be part of the survey name. But I will just call this Academy number 33. Wave 2, because we did another wave yesterday. That's a name that makes sense to most people, so that is the one I will use now. If you like, you can create different survey groups. That's something you have to do outside the interface we have for you, unfortunately. In the survey groups, they can be used to limit the number of people that can see a certain set of surveys. For instance, if you work with different teams, every team might have its own surveys, and they can be assigned to different survey groups. And then I have to choose my channel in this case and say create.
Hans, quickly back to the list of projects that was shown on the previous screen. I have a question. Does a long list of projects impact the performance of that page?
It will in the end, yes. Yeah. But there are, this page is built in multiple steps, and it actually, that's why also you here at the bottom, sorry, you will see the next and previous buttons. But actually the content on this page is retrieved actively once it is already presented. So you can actually already start using it once it is shown.
So it's another reason to clean up your domain if projects have been finished.
Well, of course you should, because the overall performance will be influenced in the end.
Okay, thank you.
If I just left this page, so where I was going to set up the survey, if I click on the Academy again, I can go straight to the setup of this project. Okay, then we're here to start working for the project. First of all, that's the base of all surveys. You need a questionnaire. That's everything is about asking questions. We can do this in two ways, and it depends a bit what your company has decided. You can either compose a questionnaire or upload a pre-created script, for instance, created in the NIPO developer. The composer is nice has a nice user interface, and if you want to have a look at it, there is a complete Academy dedicated to this. I already prepared a simple script, and I will just going to upload it. I created one with just some quota in it as well, so I can show you this functionality as well. It says, is it valid? If it's not valid, it will also tell me here. And then I have to save it. If I have media files, which is not uncommon with online surveys, I can upload them here as well. I will have to grab them from the other side, I think. I just put them in a zip file because that's actually the easiest way. Otherwise, you will have to select all the media files one by one, and then yeah, if you have 2 or 3, then it's not really an issue. But if you have hundreds of them, then it becomes a pain, of course. So then it's easier to collect them all in a zip file and upload the zip file as one. Okay, it's uploaded my media files. You can see there were 2 pictures in it. And if I click on it, we can preview them. I can download them separately, or I can download them again in a complete zip file and maybe upload them again in the next survey if you like. Okay, then we have the questionnaire and the pictures. Then a lot of surveys nowadays are in multiple languages, and the different languages are already specified within the questionnaire. And the scripters use the star language command for this. And the questionnaire always contains a default language, which is undefined. We always use English for the default, but other countries might have decided differently. If you want, you can just change the languages here, the translations. But it is usually easier if you do this in an Excel spreadsheet, because then you can actually save this and do this again. But actually, it's also possible is to use the survey defaults for the whole domain. And if you define the buttons and messages here, then every new survey you create will inherit these languages. So in this case, we just defined some regional languages in this area. And when I created the survey, these were also transferred to this project. So when I first then download the current ones, I will open it directly with Excel. The whole file can then be modified and uploaded again to modify it the way you like it. The first column contains a key, which specifies the system which button or error message is concerned. Then a column for the default language. which is in this case English. Here and there you will see that there are texts in curly brackets, and this text will be inserted by the system. So you should not translate those and leave them in the curly brackets, but then appropriate for your language. And you can add as many languages as you like, almost, yeah. At least for all the languages that are common in the world. That would be a possibility. If finished, you can save it, and then I won't save this time, but then upload it again, and then if it's a new language, it will be added to it, and if it is an existing language, it will modify the content based on the spreadsheet.
Hi, Hans. Now you're in this screen, I have two questions for you. The first one is, hi, is there a way to delete files you have uploaded? If you want to remove unnecessary media files or script, possibly uploaded by accident, is it possible to remove these?
It is not possible to do this in this interface, but we have a useful tool called the Nfield tool, and there you can specify the create a sheet where you can actually specify which ones you want to be deleted. That's unfortunately not availability here in this interface yet. But if you just want to replace it, you can upload it as well. Yeah. Then it will just if that's the same name, it will just replace it.
Okay, perfect. The second question is, I'm not really sure if I understand this. Are keys fixed or can they be created free type? Probably dealing with the buttons and.
The keys are fixed because the keys are based on our system, and we defined the keys for this.
Okay.
So that, yeah, there.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. So what will be most common is for the survey defaults, all kind of languages will be created, and depending on your country, at least the ones you need commonly, you upload those, and then those will be used for all new projects. But then, if you have your new project, it might be that somebody wants something different for the next button, or might like to have something differently translated differently. It's possible, then you can just do it straight here. Close this again. Okay. Now, most of the stuff we need for our direct fieldwork is there, but we still like to do a few things here under fieldwork, because once the fieldwork starts and people are doing their interviews, at the end of the interview, we like to send them somewhere. If we do not do this, then we will present them with the standard splash screen we have for successful and not successful interviews, for instance. But it is more commonly that companies want to send those to specific links, especially, for instance, when panel providers are being used. Of course, in that case, you want to send those people back to the panel provider. And this can be done by specifying a different link here for the exit link. The exit link will usually start with HTTPS, because most of them use HTTPS nowadays. And then I can specify just, oh, sorry, the link I want to use. But more commonly, these links need to be a bit more dynamic. And therefore, we can have in the questionnaire script constructions that make these links dynamically. And these are filled in what we call sample data variables. And a good name for such a variable would be exit link, for instance. And if we specify this here between curly brackets, then the text from the questionnaire will be inserted in this spot. This can already include, for instance, the respondent key, which we sometimes share with the panel providers. But it can be anything you like, as long as, of course, it is a valid string for the internet. If I save this, you'll see I get not a valid web address link, but I get the mark here as well, so it has been saved. This is because it cannot validate this. If I make a real mistake here, sorry. If I make a I remove the P here. If I now press the not valid, but you see I get an mark here, and it is not been saved. I can still save it again, so I need to fix this, and then indeed it likes it. A short description of the result codes might be in place. The successful we all like, and that's of course the hopeful most common code, but there are other possibilities as well. We have the possibility to exit the questionnaire with what we call no success answers written. Nowadays we usually call this screened out. That's up to the script to decide this. The next system error you will not find very often, maybe if you try to divide by 0 in the questionnaire, then people and the system detects this and is still able to relocate you, then it will use it. Another thing that can be decided in the script is that the quota is full. In that case, you want to send the people to a different exit link. So we have a possibility for this as well. Abort is still here, but it's not available in Nfield, which was to say to stop the survey, but do not save any data. We didn't decide it. We always save the data, so in that case, it would be the same as code 19. '29 is a special one. That's when the interview is anonymous survey, and the respondent clicks on the pause button. Yeah, the pause button is always present at the bottom of their screen, and they can press this button and they will be sent to the exit link here, which usually would contain some text like, okay, you paused it now, please come back again later to finish it. This is a nice option for people in very long questionnaires. But if you do not want them to press this button, you can actually here on the bottom say that the respondents can pause interviews. We can unmark that one, and then the pause button will be gone. But of course, the respondent can simply close the browser window, and then it's interrupted anyhow. And after a couple of minutes, then 50 minutes, the interview will also be interrupted. And the respondent can still continue if he would like to. Both of these will show up in the overviews as dropped out, because you never know whether they will be continued. Then we have a few technical response codes that are generated by the system. Fieldwork not allowed when the fieldwork has not started yet. Survey stopped. That can be either because it is paused at that moment, or the survey has finished. We do not like interviews to be taken twice. So when a respondent comes back, when he already has finished the survey, then he will just be redirected and be told that he already finished the survey. And then we can say that the respondent key is required for the survey. And we will show you later where you can set this. In that case, you do not want people without a respondent key to enter the survey. And the next code, you can also send the people somewhere else if there is a respondent key, but the respondent key does not exist. Then if you stop the survey and there are still people active, they will be kicked out. Might not be nice, but you can send them then to a certain exit link where you can tell them what has happened, for instance. And the last one is a special one that's handed over to an external application, which is a new feature where we more or less interrupt this interview, start a survey in a different site, and come back later to finish the survey here. This exit link will then specify the external application that will handle this. There is a nice academy simply dedicated to this option. Any questions regarding this, Art?
No question.
Okay. Okay, now I have a question in place. I've defined what I would like for the exit links. And then I can show you how we going to test, for instance, our surveys. First of all, we can use the preview button to publish the survey to the test environment and start a test interview. Well, this test interview does not contain many interesting questions, but I'll just put this in for to show the quota. If quota would have been full, then I would have get a different text here. And now I'm redirected. In this case, I sent myself to the NIPO software website. And that is not in the here, but specified here directly. But I fill this exit link inside my questionnaire. to go straight to our NIPO software website. When I started the questionnaire, it also started the interviewer metrics. And this tells me how good or bad my questionnaire performs. In this case, the values are all kind of low, so it is not a real issue. This one is also very simple, so I do not expect anything here. And however, if you have a complex questionnaire and you experience some issues, and then you can have a look at this while you are interviewing, because this is updated while you are going through your interview, and see where the pain is. The metrics can come in useful. Okay, we'll come back to this a little bit later when I'm going to start with my survey. But first, let's have a look at setting up the quota. If I do not have anything set up, then I get to this page, and I can either add quota variables or just set an overall target. But in this case, I will go to add a quota variable. I will do a very simple one. There is a whole academy also about this. I will just do this sub. And I typing this just by giving enters. So it, okay. And when this, I can go to the next step and order and nest my variables. If I just make them independently, I can leave them like this. But if I want to make the age dependent on the gender, I can just indent it and go to the next step to define my targets. If you're working on a very big thing, you might like to press the save button from time to time, because actually only this will send it to the central system. Define my targets. Okay, we can set minimum and maximum targets. That's a nice feature. Sometimes minimum targets are all you need actually, but it's also nice to set the maximum. Then if I say if I use the target of 100, and then I want 50 these minimum and 20 these each, and again 50 and 20. Okay, the targets are defined. I can also set here to limit the overshoot of active interviewers, because actually if you have a long questionnaire and many interview respondents at the same time, then it might be that somebody is all with a certain profile is already halfway the questionnaire, and the new one comes in, but you actually do not need this one anymore because your target is almost there. Then this one starts in, and then you might have some overshoot. But we can limit this. And then we say, okay, maybe 2 or 3 maybe attend during the span of the interview. Because you can set this to 0, but that means nobody can enter the questionnaire with the same profile again after the other one is finished. But does the other one finish? You don't know, so you might like to set a certain overshoot that will promise that you get your targets rather than having to wait again till somebody comes in with the same profile again. Okay, I've set my quota. Then I can publish my survey. And publishing brings the whole setup I did to the production server.
Hans, while you're publishing, some questions have come in for quotas. The first one is, hi, are you able to load interlocking quotas? Interlocking quotas per region?
This is an interlocking quota already with male, female, and ages.
I think this also relates to something that you may be going to show to load them instead of set them up. To load the quota specification instead of setting it up manually. Yeah, there is. I not shown you yet, but in our website we have a section which is called useful tools in the support website, and there we have the Nfield tool, and the Nfield tool indeed has the possibility to upload a complete quota frame, and also to copy quota frames between different projects. And it makes it easier to maintain your quota. Yeah, that's a very useful feature. Also, if you have a more complex quota frame, right? Yeah, and the nice thing is that Excel has the possibility to do the calculations for you to the totals. If you make fill in the totals here, it will check if it does not overflow. If I would enter here 40, oh, you see that the red things appear, and that means it knows that I'm overshooting the amount I already specified. Yeah. But if you prepare this in Excel, then of course you can make sure this adds up by making the calculations in your sheet. Yeah, this participant is using a couple of types of quota for gender, age, race, user, region, and per supervisor, field manager. I think if you get into these kind of complex quotas and they are repetitive, then I think the Nfield tool may be very useful to upload this quota frame as a standard, right? Yeah, although I think the Nfield tool only allows up to 3 levels. Okay, yeah. So that's 3 levels of interlocking. Yeah, and here you can specify more, of course. And I think officially we only support up to 5 levels according to the acceptable use policy. Okay, thanks. I think this is enough information about the quotas. If this participant has more questions, then please ask us a question afterwards. Yeah. Okay, it's published, and now I can start my fieldwork. And fieldwork has started. And bam, you can see that it says here. Oh, you can still, if you try me here, but the numbers are locked here. So, but it then say, okay, they are still editable, but then actually you will have to edit the live targets, and that is located here under monitor fieldwork. You can actually redefine your whole quota frame and save it again, but that will start fresh. From that point onwards, you have to use the numbers
you specify at that point. Everything you did before is more or less forgotten. So you have to make calculations then what you still need. But this information should usually also has to come from the analysis of the data. For instance, if you want to add car ownership to this one, okay, then it was not there previously, so you will have to make calculations about how many you still need from the already collected data. Every time you make changes, by the way, to your survey, you will have to republish it. Two useful things here is possibility to copy the live link here. The live link you can use, for instance, on a website to start surveys, or you can share this with a panel provider so that he can use this for his panelists. And you can copy the test link here, and the test link can then be shared, for instance, with the customer who can then test the questionnaire himself. The encryption key is a little bit more complex, but if we share a live link, it can contain additional arguments, parameters on the line, which can then be used in the questionnaire, but the will then be in readable form, and we can encrypt these. There's some documentation about how to do this. Therefore, you need the encryption key, but you can also do this with the useful tool, the Nfield tool, which has the possibility to encrypt all spreadsheets with this information. Okay. We have for survey, we have for almost everything apart from respondents. Therefore, we have for sample and invitations. Well, we always have sample, whether you know your respondents in advance or not. And for every interview that is being done in this survey, whether it's for testing or for production live, we call this, then we'll create a record in the sample. And you can see there is already one here. That is actually the test I just performed 30 minutes ago. Every respondent can have a respondent key. This is a unique key that needs to be unique across the surveys. Survey, not across surveys, but to this survey. And if there is a respondent key in the link, then the respondent can leave the survey halfway and come back later. And if you like, we can also here on the settings specify that we allow only known respondents, which is a useful feature if you want to block any attempts to fake your responses. Okay. If I want my respondents for myself, then I can create a spreadsheet. I created a spreadsheet here. And a spreadsheet can contain a lot of different information if necessary. But it needs to contain in the first column always the respondent key. And you could even put any kind of text above it. The system will always assume the first column is the respondent key. Then it should contain unique keys. In this case, I just used some simple random 6-character numbers, and but you can use anything for this as long as it is unique. It should, because it has to be part of URL in the end. It should not contain any characters that conflict with this. So no spaces, for instance. Then, if you are going to invite the respondents, then you can include their email address and any other information you like. In this case, I have gender, I can already fill in, but you can have as many, well, almost as many as you like here. Background information on your respondent. For the column, you should make sure these are valid fields for the database according to the SQL Server rules, because otherwise you will get some errors probably. So let's see what happens when I upload these. Okay, when I upload these, the system wants to know, because I might like to invite these people later, which field contains the email addresses. Well, it just gives me a list, and indeed I put this time in email, but I could have used another text for this as well, so I can say, okay, if you do not want to do it at this point, you can skip the selection. And then if I look here on the right side, you will see that I actually have here the email address, the male, female, and the age I use inside for the quota. And I use an exit link. And this was also defined inside the questionnaire. Okay, then if I want to invite these people, I have to create some invitation. And an invitation is an email template for inviting your respondents. You can either choose from blank, then you can start from scratch, or the default is called, actually it could have been called demo or because it's just an email that shows some possibilities. I will use this for this purpose. Invitation needs a name because you can have multiple invitations on a project, and you will have to select this one when you are going to do the invitation. So I will just call this Academy Ping. Then every email needs a subject line. Without a subject line, people will not read your mail and might even land in a spam box. So you need to give it some sort of subject, invitation. Okay. I have, then I can make changes here and use all these nice possibilities to edit this. I can also click on it and then I get additional options to use. This editor is quite nice to use for editing HTML pages. And if you want to see what's actually being created, you can switch to the code view, and then you can see the underlying HTML. You can also create this HTML in some other and then simply copy and paste it here, and then this button again you can get the preview. Every email needs to contain an unsubscribe option and the company's postal address. It will be automatically inserted here if you use this between curly brackets. But if these are not here, the invitation will not be sent. This will become the start button for the survey itself. If I like, I can change it's just say dear user. I can change this and then, for instance, insert some text here from this box and insert a custom background data field. And then I can choose from the ones that are currently in my sample. If I have a name, I could have used it here. I could use a gender, for instance, here, but you can get something, dear lady or dear gentleman, if I had this kind of text in the sample, but I can insert it here. If we fix it, then I can save it. And go back to my sample. And then when I want to send out my invitations, I usually have to make a selection of the respondents I want to select. And therefore I can use the filter possibilities here. If you have a lot of invitations to be sent, then it is worthwhile to, for instance, send them out in batches, and then already include, for instance, the batch number inside the file you import, because in that way you can just simply select the batch number from here and then create a filter based on this. In this case, I'm simply going to use the interview ID and say not equal to, say greater than, and then when it's greater than 1. And then you can add or filters to it. You can create quite complex filter here. And when this is all set, you can say invite. Give the batch a name. Say okay. And you need to say which invitation you want to use. Okay, my button becomes green here and I can preview it. If this button becomes red, orange is red, then you can actually mouse over this button to see what is actually the cause of this problem. And then it might be, for instance, that unsubscribe button is missing, and then you can fix that and go back here later. And already told them that my email address is here in the email. In that case, I do not have to select it here again because I already told the system. Then I can schedule it for now, or I can schedule it for a specific time. So let's say I want to schedule it for 11:30. I have to confirm that all my email addresses have been verified and that I tested my invitation template against spam. Then verify email addresses and also the spam test. There are pretty good websites for this where you can actually do this test against. Because you don't want to get all your emails in the spam and nobody joins your survey. Okay, they are being processed now. And then as long as then it will say no invitation sent. I can go here to monitor fieldwork to see what is happening, but I can also go back to the surveys overview. And then here under my invitations, I see here, this is actually the one from yesterday, but if I filter it, and or filter sort it by last best sent, and because this one is not sent yet, it will actually be at the bottom. So if I click on it now, that you see it is actually only scheduled. The other statuses I'd like to explain to you because might not always be too clear. Pending means yeah, the order is not really in the order I would normally do it because yeah, well, we come to this. The pending just means that it is somewhere on the way. So it means that it has been sent, but it is has not been notified by the systems that that has arrived. Not sent it means that there was something that has not been sent. Then the 1 point it might get the states opened, but for instance, if you use Outlook, then you can say to Outlook that you do not want to send a notification that you opened a mail. So this status might not be reflected here. But the next one is better because that one is clicked. That we really clicked on the start button because in that case we actually sent a small notification to a tracker address where this is noticed and it will come in our system. So they clicked good on that you can know that they really opened your mail and notice that they could start a survey. Error is some error you get back from the system. Sent means just it is sent, but nothing has happened yet. Then people can unsubscribe from it, and people can set or report it as abuse. If you make a mistake, I scheduled this and then I think, I made a big mistake in my invitation, for instance, and it is only scheduled, then I can just say here block. And then I will block the invitations for this project. I can unblock it again, but then once I original scheduled, I will have to reschedule again. But that's probably what you want to do anyway, because you need to make some changes.
Hans, there's a question. The invitation status that you have here, will that be reported back to the sample?
Indeed, you will also find this back in the sample itself. Let's go to the sample. At the moment it is status not sent. So it is that's the current status. And actually you will see here already is blacklisted. Once I started this, and I noticed yesterday I used the same email addresses, and the email addresses are johndoe@gmail.com. Well, apparently this one did not exist, and Google reported this. Google did not report this, so that's blacklisted is false. But the next one, I used janedoe@icloud.com, and apparently iCloud reports back that this one is not a good one, and so this one is blacklisted.
Okay, thanks.
And will not be sent again. That's something. If you want to, and that's something only administrators can do, and they can go into the blacklist, and then for those, for instance, this is no mailbox in the blacklist region, then I can activate this one again by using this button here. For those people that unsubscribe them, we cannot subscribe them again. They have to do this themselves. But if we click here on the question mark, then we get a link you can copy and send to this respondent. And if the respondent clicks on that link, then they can register themselves or subscribe themselves again. Okay, we are done with our sample. Next step, and we can go to the monitoring of the fieldwork. First on this overview page, we can see the progress. There are not many successful interviews yet, and then we can actually see how many there are. Well, because this one I did not do anything, but yesterday's survey I already did something, so I can show you a little bit more. I did 2 successful interviews. That's a lot, but not of course. And here you can also see how many interviews are currently being done. You can see how many successful, how many dropped out. Those are the ones that started but did not finish their survey. How many there are screened out. That means they are actively ended by the questionnaire script because they did not fulfill a certain criteria. Can be ownership of something, or they might be over quota, for instance. That's also screened out. And then we have the possibility to delete interviews, and they will still be counted here as well, just to give you an idea of your fieldwork. If you like, you can also download your data here. If I press this button, I can say here which ones I exactly want to download. Usually you just want the successful ones. But if you like, you can even get the test data. You can then say the type of data. You usually closed answers and the open answers are good for the normal report. And for the para data, we have two different types of para data with some background information about the interview. The normal para data does not contain as many things as many items as CAPI para data contains. But for instance, it contains the contents of the quota variables, which sometimes for debugging nice. But it contains the audit log, and the audit log gives you a complete presentation of the timings within the interview. And there you can see whether the respondent, for instance, was speeding. The variables file can be used for either or a read survey tool, or for instance for the dimensions DSC, which can then be used to read in the data straight into dimensions. And that's more recent option they included here. If you like, you can also immediately retrieve the questionnaire script here, so you have a complete set of your information. You have to specify your date range. It's always a week from till today, until now actually, because we encourage people not to download all the data all the time, but do this cumulative. In this case, I only have information from this period, so I can leave this. Then if I have multiple survey versions, I can specify this here as well. Because then I might need to process the data separately. If there was a big change in the questionnaire during the field work, it happens sometimes that things have to be done. Then you might like to grab the data for these separately, and then process these into one in your data processing software. And then you push the create download. Well, it's already ready. And then if I look here under activities, I can find these things. And then you can see, okay, I did the data download. The next page, I can see how my quota performed. Okay, I did one man, one woman, a young woman, older man. Okay. And here is the place where you can actually make changes. If we need to readjust by targets, I can do this here. You cannot change the frame itself, but here you can change the targets for this survey. You can see your invitation badges here. Okay, indeed, that was locked. And on the next one, you can see your reports. Well, I used this one from yesterday because activating your report can take some time, and I didn't want everybody here to wait for this. So I used the one from yesterday. But the first step normally is that you go into design. And here, first you make a selection of the questions you want to have in your reporting phase. After this, you might need to do some transformations, merge certain questions, or you can split certain questions. If you want to see how this is done, there is a nice academy on this as well. It's quite versatile, I must say. And once you have set this up, you can get to your fieldwork overview. I can share this with people outside the company, and then I can tell how long this will be valid. You give it a label, so I can, for instance, if it is for a certain customer or if it is for internal use, I can specify this here. Create a link, and then it will appear here. And then you can share this link with the people who need to monitor the fieldwork progress, but do not have access to the Nfield manager themselves. Well, on the first page, you will have an overview of some overall statistics for this survey. And then the most important people, most useful, or how do we call it? The most used, actually, part of it is the quick cross table, which will give you the possibility to make some fast reports. One thing I should tell you, if you have this is a pretty short questionnaire, of course, but you have a long questionnaire, that you might get an error message here that it is too big, and so okay, then you go here and just set this to total. Sorry. If you do not do this, it kind of calculates in the background everything against everything. And this is, of course, way too much for the system to process in normal fashion. It might be possible, but then you need to have to do a lot of add a lot of resources to it. But if you make a selection here, it will just give you what you really need. Okay. Any questions regarding this?
Not so much about the reporting section yet. I got a question about the previous topic of data download. Can you add a filter for data download to use a data variable like sample flag or quota group?
No, because that is not, let's say, criteria for the data. No, that's for reporting, yes, but for the data download, not. No, those are simply records in a blob storage. They have a timestamp and a version stamp, but not all kind of other background information, let's say. No.
So you get the whole set and then later create your filter.
Yeah, I mean, that's normally what you do, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So, where am I? Here in the football, where is my mouse? But okay, this was the demo. Yeah, so we have some more information for you if you want to do some more reading or watching. We have the Nfield reference and Nfield Chicago documentation. Nfield Chicago being the template we use. If we go back to the manager, here in the top right, you find the knowledge center. And here under documentation, you find the Nfield reference, which is a guide mainly for scripters, but it contains a lot of additional information for other people as well. And so to have a look at it is always an option. Gives a pretty good explanation about the quota usage as well. And it even contains the information where you can actually find the data centers in the world. And the Nfield documentation, Nfield Chicago documentation is the website of Nfield Chicago itself, which gives you some examples and do's and don'ts, etc. about the Nfield Chicago template. Next, we have a document on a regular website with the acceptable use policy. This might be known by administrators, but it's not always known by the real people performing the field work. So please have a look at it. It tells you what we think is most. If you work in using these policies, then you keep everybody happy. Sometimes we get questions about security. We have a page on our website about this as well. Then you can find all previous NIPO Academies on our website, the support website. This it's a lot of different topics and goes into more detail about what I told you today. Then we have the what we call the Nfield tool. This uses or programming API, where so the Excel spreadsheet, which Nfield tool actually is, its macros actually talk to this API. And if you want to create your own applications, you can also use these. Okay. Any final questions?
Yes, Hans. A couple of questions came in about exporting of a quota table. Is it possible to export any quota table from a live project? The quota in the Nfield Manager is not clearly, especially when we have extensive quotas.
You can use the Nfield tool for this if you one of the things what you can download is also the download. Where is it? Oh, yeah, it's called Get Quota Counts. Okay, yeah. This gives you also an overview of your quotas, but
Yeah,
then in a spreadsheet, which makes it easier to work with sometimes.
Perfect. Okay, so that's ready made, so they can use the API as well if they want to build something themselves. But the participants, thanks for the answer. Yeah, a final question on the reports. Can open-ended be filtered by specific questions? I think this is about the tab with the open answers.
Yeah, verbatims they call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't. I think it would be possible, but I don't. I do not know whether they implemented it. Let's say. The whole thing actually. This is a Power BI report we created ourselves. In the near future, we also offer the possibility to you actually link to your own data. No, this one doesn't contain anything here, of course.
But can you go at the question text? Is that a filter on top?
Yeah, that is. But in this case, I don't have any examples here.
No, but
No.
the question text will probably filter the verbatim per question, right?
That's the question, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not certain whether you can create. It can be part of the. I know text questions. If you have a question which contains text, an alpha question, can be part of this table, and then you can indeed make a cross tabulation, because it's not quite often that you filter it already in advance by, although it is sometimes easier, but no, okay, leave it. That's
yeah. There is a Academy session on the reporting section as well, and well, if the question has not been answered, then feel free to open a support ticket for this. There's a final question. I'm not really sure if I understand it. Can we tag a device in a single click? Does that make sense?
Well, what? Tag a device?
Can we tag a device in a single click? I'm not sure if they want to. Well, if this.
This is online surveys. What is it?
Yeah.
A device?
Yeah, maybe they want to store the device of the online respondent. Okay, let's park it for now. Oh, she's talking about offline, which is outside the scope of this session. We will discuss that at a KP specific Academy session.
Yeah.
Those were all the questions, Hans.
Okay, then I guess was the end of our presentation. And thank you for joining, and hope to see you again.
Yes, thank you all for joining. Bye-bye.